Hey, good morning, everyone. Josh here. Welcome to another beautiful day of life, and welcome to our morning meditations. Today, we're getting a little bit further along in the parables, and I mentioned yesterday that we're going to be moving through them chronologically, so basically in the way that they first appear, all the way into the last one. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about two different parables that actually are talking about the same thing. And they're parable number one and parable number two, you could call them. The parables of new cloth on an old coat and new wine in old wineskins. And you can find these in Matthew chapter 9, verses 16 and 17, Mark chapter 2, verses 21 and 22, and Luke chapter 5, verse 36 through 38. And Matthew and Mark are identical. Luke's wording is a little bit different, but it still captures the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you, give you a little bit of background. Jesus has just called Matthew the tax collector to become one of his disciples, and they're having dinner. And the Pharisees and then some of John the Baptist disciples, they come up and they start questioning Jesus about various things. Why don't you fast? Why do you eat with tax collectors? And so on and so forth. And Jesus answers them, and he says, How can the guests of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? The time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them. Then they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear worse. Neither do men pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst, but the wine will run out and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. And so old wineskins tend to harden after a while. And so if you were to pour new wine into an old wineskin, it would crack. And like Jesus said, it would burst. And so what is the correlation between new patch on an old garment and new wine in old wineskins? Well, this is pretty new in Jesus' ministry. He hasn't been on the scene all that long. As you can see, he's still calling his disciples to him. And so what he's talking about, the patch and the wine, is his message. Jesus is saying, in essence, my message, this is the new message. This is the clarification to the Old Testament, to the prophets, to the Pharisees and all the law and all of these idiosyncrasies that you all are following. And because you're following so many, minute details of all these things that you created, not God, you're missing it. And his new message is the one to clarify and simplify and bring new life into a people who had their faith was largely dying. So the new patch on the old garment tears away at the garment. The garment, when you wash it, it shrinks. And so if you were to put an unshrunk piece of new material into a pre-shrunken garment, when you wash it again, then it tears the fabric away even more. So you have these bursting wineskins and you have these garments that are being torn apart even more with the newness of this addition. And so how do you apply that to your life? Well, one thing, we're all kind of old garments in a way, or we're all old wineskins, at least when it comes to living our lives apart from God or apart from the message of Christ and his salvation. And so anytime you're adding Christ into your life when you've never done it before, or even if you have done it before, but maybe you've just been really lackadaisical and your faith has been more of this concept where you're like, yeah, I'm a Christian, but you're not really living a Christian life. You're not really seeking that spiritual connection, and certainly not the inner transformation that Jesus came and was all about. So when you put Jesus into your life, when you accept Christ and you earnestly begin to follow him and undergo this transformational process that is called sanctification, there's going to be some tearing that's involved. There's going to be some tearing apart at your old fabric of who you were when you didn't have God in your life. there's going to be some bursting. There's going to be some parts of you that just explode with irrelevancy. You know, when you start to really understand and get Christ's words into your mind and into your soul, and that transformation starts to happen, it's like somebody once described it to me as God is a master sculptor, you know, and he starts out with this block of marble. And at first he makes these giant, you know, big cuts, and these big chunks of marble just fall off onto the floor. And as you take shape, you know, the master sculptor continues, but his work is more fine tuning and it's more detail oriented. And so the explosions and these torn fabrics of who we used to be, you know, at first are these big chunks of who we used to be, our identity that's associated with this very worldly sort of person who we think we are. But it's only until you meet Jesus, that you meet God, that you meet the Christ, that you begin to see who you really are. And the person who you used to be and the person who you really are, who you've always been deep down inside, may not know each other at first. And so there's this conflict that happens. And this is where we get backsliding. Backsliding is where, you know, people who begin the journey into their spirituality, and they're starting to realize that they're not exactly who they used to be, but they still have this pull from who they used to be. Maybe their friends, associates, family members, maybe the things they've done are pretty well ingrained in them. Maybe people are judging them, talking down to them, telling them, oh, you got Jesus in your life. You think that's going to make a difference. You're never going to change. You're always going to be who you were. You're always going to be this person or that. And that's a very human sort of way of thinking about things. But that's certainly not how God thinks about things. And we know that because of Christ and his message and what the scriptures tell us. He tells us that he's coming to give us life anew. And so that is, in essence, what these parables are. New wine, new wineskins. Because the new wineskins are the only sort of vessel that is able to hold this new message. And that's exactly what we become. We become new wineskins. We become new people with the new message in us, able to be transformed and move through the rest of our lives as a brand new person in Christ. So I hope that brings you comfort, and I hope that brings you a little bit of encouragement today to know that your past, whatever you've done, whatever has happened to you, isn't you. It doesn't define you. It contributes to your personality and your qualifications to minister to other people, but it's not you. So I love you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.